Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and we're looking at the Leo new moon update. And I'm just going to show you this chart briefly. This is a brilliant site which I suggest you go to, which I use. And I also use astro.com and SolarFire as well. There are different ways we can look at charts, and we will pop over to SolarFire and watch the chart move. But first, we are going to look at this new moon. And when it's a full moon, the moon is opposite the sun. So you can see this is a new moon and it's in Leo. It's at 5:38, so degrees, and you can see the moon is at the same degree. And then Mercury is also in Leo here. We've got Venus at 12 degrees in the sign of Cancer, and that's with Lilith there, true Lilith. We've got Mars is in Taurus, and we can see that we've got this conjunction going on here, which is going to be an exact conjunction on the 31st of Uranus, the North Node, and the Mars. So Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. What's very interesting, and I hope I'm correct in saying this, I'll do another video in the next couple of days on this conjunction, because the last time that happened in the sign of Taurus, just talking about the node and Uranus, that we're looking at over 1800 years ago. So from the research I've done, that's what I've seen, and that fascinates me, that it was such a long time ago. And it was a bit difficult for me to work out because I don't understand the Julian calendar, but I found something on Google that was able to convert dates. So I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like. We've got Mars, and what's going to happen is Mars will cross over Uranus and the North Node in the coming days. We've got Chiron in Aries, and Jupiter as literally, if you look here, Jupiter is just stationed. So that's going retrograde today as well. If I push that forward, that's actually going to be going retrograde. So it's very fascinating that that has gone retrograde on the day of this new moon. And what we've got is a trine going up to Jupiter. So there's some support there, possibly on our future, our own happiness, because we can seek outside ourselves. And what I think we're learning to do is, what makes me happy, and not in a grandiose way, but in a balanced way, and the simple things that make us happy as well, because resources are getting harder for a lot of people. So we're having to look at what the truth of what makes us happy, and with our time as well. We've got Neptune in Pisces, and Saturn is in Aquarius, and Pluto, we know, is in its last leg of Capricorn, because it's been there since 2007, 8, and it's going to leave there in 2024 into Aquarius. So we've got huge shift coming up, and we can all feel that, like the breaking down of the structure that we know, and taking what's good and leaving the rest behind. So there's a lot of fracturing going on as well, as this Aquarius is about that. It's sort of where people go off into finding their own people. So let's see what else we can see here. If you put this chart in, you can scroll down, and you can learn a lot from this site. It's really useful. And it's I didn't say astroseek.com, yeah, horoscopes.astro.seek.com. If I go over to my chart now, I want to show you this, and I'm going to make it smaller, because I want you to be able to understand where you're looking for this moon and these transit on your own chart. So this is my chart, and it's 21:38 in London. And so it was a few hours ago, but the moon, it's moved from 5 degrees, and it's now 5:10. If we look here, the moon is now 7, if I can see properly, degrees there. And we can see that that's fallen on my Lilith, because that's asteroid Lilith for me, which is quite powerful. Lilith is where she wants to throw off restriction as well, in a different way. And Uranian energy is throwing off, liberating ourselves. Pluto is to do with transformation. Neptune is beyond the five senses. And I'm making this quite, it's much deeper than that, but I'm just giving you an idea that South Node is our past, which we're integrating into our future because we don't want to get rid of it because we have gifts. It's like where people say in spirituality, we want to get rid of our ego. We don't want to do that. We need to integrate. That's part of the shadow work. We can't be one or the other. We're a totality and we balance ourselves out. We've also got, this is Lilith here. There are four Liliths, but I use three of them. You've got Lilith there as well. And that's Persephone if you're looking on my chart. This is to do with mythology. It's very beautiful. Chiron is the wound. Saturn is the wound. Chiron is the wound that we carry. And Chiron is what we turn, it becomes our medicine, the medicine for others, so our wound with the wisdom, it becomes, but we can struggle with that unless we understand it. It's helpful to understand it. If we go deeper into Chiron and our trauma, then we can understand that a lot of our repetitiveness in trauma comes from childhood. A lot of us will see that, and also in the collective as well. And we have Saturn, which is restriction. Venus is our inner needs in evolutionary astrology. Then we've got Mercury, which is the left brain mind, where we do our lists and what we got to do and stuff like that. Mars is our libido, our direction, not when libido is not sexual so much as in Jung believed it's our drive. It's where we've got this drive to achieve. The North Node is the path we're on. The sun is who we are, where we shine. So mine's in Gemini. You've got my moon is also in Gemini. So I've got very Mercury-like mind. And Jupiter is in Cancer for me. And that's that chart. So the moon fell for me in my 8th house and it fell on my Lilith. So then I would look at the aspects to that. So when you look at your aspects on AstroSeek, you can see the aspects clearly, which is really, it's a lot of fun to look at them because you can see what it's, and you want to look at the houses as well, what it's, so for me, if I show you, and we are going to go to Solar Fire to get that chart moving, the moon is in a spiritualized, it's a quintile to my Mars. So that moon, it was in 72 degrees to my Mars when it fell. And then also to my Mercury, the same, because my Mercury is there. So the moon was, and the sun is doing the same there, yeah? Because the sun is conjunct the moon at that point. And then a few other aspects of that moon was its octile. An octile is a 45 degree, a square is 90 degrees apart, but an octile is 45 degrees. So that is 45 degrees to my MC there. So we can see a little bit of struggle. Tension with squares, they're not bad things. They're basically, if you figure out, if you go to the gym and you go and work out, I'm not suggesting you do, but if you do, or any exercise we do, we're creating tension, and that tension based on what we're doing, if we're working out, is going to bring positive results. So tension is not a bad thing. We just need to integrate it well into our lives. The same with stress. We can't be without stress. Stress is part of life, but how we integrate it and our perception of something can change things. And the moon is also quintile to my node here. So it's quite a spiritualized time for me. And then the sun is also quintile to my node. So let's go to Solar Fire and we'll run through what Leo means overall. A lot of people know, if you know astrology. So let's do a new share. And this is the emanated chart. And I'm going to get my spotlight. And I'm going to move this chart so you're going to see what happens with this Uranus, North Node, and Mars. North Node, Uranus, and Mars. And you can see that Jupiter there is stationed. See the little S? That means it's stationed. So this is about our beliefs, but it's also about our happiness as well. And it can be grandiosity and too much, but we can balance that out. And again, it will depend on what that's doing in our chart and where it is in our chart. For me, it's in my 4th house. So with Leo, we've got, it's our creative self-actualization. So for instance, I've got Venus in my 5th house. So I need to be creative in order, it's a need of mine because Venus is about our inner needs. So we can look at what's going on for us in our chart, and that's one thing that would be seen by anybody looking at my chart who understands astrology, that I have that need because of Venus being there, and then the aspects to it. The Leo keywords are ruler and the king and the queen. It's where we can be grandiose, you know, if you think of the beautiful lion, as well, and the the visual of that is very beautiful, but they can look, you know, when they're standing tall and they're very empowering and powerful. It's our subjective awareness, Leo. It's and also it's the sun. So Leo and the sun go together. And when we think of our own sun sign, you know, I think naturally, I haven't really heard it said, but naturally the sun is where we shine. So if you think what Leo is, and the sun is doing that in our chart, and where it is in our chart, the sign it's in, mine is in Gemini, means that that is where, you know, the what's coming out of me, what people will see. Leo is also the artist. It's inflation. It can be positive or negative. It's involvement. It's can be romance. It's creativity. It's the artist. It's exhibitionism. It's applause. Think of the artist, and it's drama. It's integration. It's where we integrate our creativity. It's purpose. It's where we can be full of the self. It can be the gambler, the risk taker. It can be also children, the inner child. It can be affairs and adultery. So quite a list of words there. And we're going to move this chart now and see what that means. I will say, actually, I'm going to go back to, before I go further, I want to show you something. Or can I show you here, actually? Let's watch it. So if you look at this, let's go back, actually. I want to go back and show you. So see this here. One minute. You share. So you see this. This is, I found quite interesting. I'll make sure I'm on the right page. So in evolutionary astrology, this is called skip steps, when the nodes are square to a planet. So it's a skip step. So this chart I found quite fascinating because this Saturn is square to the North Node, but it's also square to the South Node at this point. And then the South Node is also square to Mercury. And then we've got Mercury is opposing Saturn. So I will read a couple of these, what they mean, but we're going to do this over on Solar Fire. So let me show you again. I'm going to a new share. So taking in mind that the sun is conjunct the moon at this point. Here you go. I'm looking forward to that video that I'm going to do on the Uranian North Node Mars conjunction in a few days. The sun conjunct the moon, okay? So then we've got the sun is beautifully, that sun is trine to Jupiter, and Solar Fire has got a lot more going on here in aspects. So that's why you see these are all aspects in the middle. You've got the sun trine Jupiter, which is harmonious, and it can make us, you know, feel confident and optimistic. And also because that moon is in, the sun is in Leo and the moon is in Leo, it's quite beautiful. And it's where we have a love of adventure and new experience as well. And we got this new moon is the next 28 days. So it should be a fun, you know, hopefully. I mean, the thing that I'm looking at is what's going on down here with the North Node Uranian Mars, whether there's going to be any movement, or Uranus can be shocks and the North Node is our path. You know, it's interesting. Different astrologers will pick up different things depending on their knowledge, and we're continuously learning. The sun is opposition Pluto, but it's a week, it's 10 degrees and literally 8 degrees off. So it's not quite, you see, the sun is not quite opposite. It's already been in opposition. That was a funny week, actually, when that sun was opposite. That was a funny week for me. I think it would have been the sun, it would have been about a week ago. The moon is trine to Jupiter. and it's where we are also, and it's applying as well, which is nice. So it's where we are optimistic and generous, and it's also where we radiate it to others, and it's, you know, we also, we can be good at winning certain things at this time. So whatever that may mean for you. The moon is opposition Pluto, but again, it's weak, it's moved off. And then Mercury square Mars can give us a lot of impatience and make us very quarrelsome. So that, you see the Mercury here, it's in a square to Mars, and the Mercury is also in a square to Uranus, and the Mercury is also in a square to the North Node. So there's some tension going on here. So we may feel a little bit argumentative, and it can be where we have very strong personalities at this time. So we have to watch that we, you know, we can monitor ourselves. And, you know, I've started working out the last week. I've started with training so that I can build up some muscle and feel good about myself. And it's something I intend to do, to not let myself drop off. It's something I realize that I need to get rid of any pent up energy. And it's so easy to sort of sit on social media or do what we're doing and not make time for the body, for the somatic experience. But it's really good. We're all different. For some people, it might be meditation. Meditation didn't work for me. And with complex PTSD issue, it can make me quite hypervigilant. So I'm better off, like, if I want to meditate, I'm better off listening to an Audible book or something like that, a way of switching off. Everybody's different, but I did meditate years ago and it didn't really do what I wanted it to do. Mercury opposition Saturn can make us quite serious and practical, mental process, but we also can have the ability to be, you know, calculate clearly and calmly, which is good for us, and that can help us at this time as well. So you see that Mercury is opposition to, and it's moving on in as well, because it's 18 degrees, and then it will, in a few days, will move the chart. So Mercury square to Uranus can bring extreme views, and it can bring a really strong need for us to be independent, and it can be where people are trying to force their opinions. So we want to watch out with that, and that we're not arrogant, and that we don't, you know, that we can compromise, because people, what I think the interesting thing about opinions, generally they are opinions, and when we've got triggers, we can be very triggered by something that may be to do with our past or our childhood, or something that's triggered us, you know, even collectively. And there are opinions with this, you know, for some of us, you know, our opinions may be spot on and way ahead of what other people are thinking. I mean, I'm very aware at this time that we need to, regardless of what's going on, we need to have some spare in case supply chains break down. For instance, you know, wouldn't it be better to have a few months of unperishable food in your cupboard, in your at home, that you've got, that if there was a rush for, you know, supplies or foods or whatever, that you're covered. And when I've noticed, when I say this to some people, in awareness of not just astrology, but what's going on collectively in the Netherlands and in Sri Lanka a few weeks ago, you can Google that. You know, there are laws that are being brought in that are to do with, I believe, nitrates, which means that it's harder for farmers to grow things. So we have to be aware of not the general news, but the news that doesn't really come through, and just, you know, be a bit self-sufficient at this time and really think about what makes us happy and what do we need. You know, some of us just think, oh, everything's back to normal, and in my opinion, we've got a long way to go, because also we have the supplies of gas and electricity and such like, and there are other things going on that are uncertain. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's really been looking at your resources and getting things together to make sure, as you would, and if, you know, if you haven't got children, I don't, but if you had an inner child, you know, what does that child need in order to be okay and to survive, and just sort those things out. And for me, it's, you know, good food, and it's some exercise, and, you know, there's other things, but basics. It's also because that Uranus is to do with resources, it's on the land, and this Uranus is where if I show you in the Second World War, if I go back to 1938, I could be wrong there. Yeah, look where, this is 1938, look where that Uranus is. But what's very interesting at that time, it was on the South Node. So if I take that back, or it would go forward to meet that node. So let's see, months. I'm going to go forward a month, right? So you can see that node, that's so fascinating. In 1938, what we're having right now on the 31st is Uranus meet the North Node. And what we got here is Uranus meeting the South Node. So if I take that weeks ahead, 16, and then it went retrograde. That's fascinating. So it went up to the node and then it went retrograde. So it would have gone retrograde for 5 months. So let's see when that hit. If we go forward again, I don't know if you saw what happened there, that I was showing you this. What we were trying to do was get Uranus to move onto the node. And if I go weeks, you can see if I go back, there you go, it's stationed on the 24th of August 1938. It was moving onto the node, or they were going to conjunct, but then it's gone retrograde, and that's about 4.5, 5 months if you're watching that, and then it went forward. So 1, 2, 3. So at that point, then it was retrograde on the 18th of January 1939, and then it crossed the South Node. So that's very fascinating. But right now, if we bring up today's date, which is the 28th of July, 2022. Now watch this. This is today's chart. You've got the node and you've got Uranus. So there's something good. It's a strange one for me. I sort of feel that something's going to happen and I don't know what, but I also feel there's something positive about it. And I can't, it's like there's an uncertainty in me if, what it is. But the interesting thing about trauma and things changing, that a lot of darkness can come up, like that things can happen that really look tragic, but in trauma, I'm not suggesting that it's that it's a good thing or a great thing. I mean, it's hard. I came from a lot of trauma, but who I am is, I'm comfortable with who I am now. I will continuously be working on myself. I'm not saying I'm skipping through a field of daisies, but as I've worked on my trauma, I'm less reactive to, I still get triggered, but I can deal with my triggers in a much better way. And with any complex PTSD or PTSD issues, and a lot of that's been created with regard to what went on with COVID, like all of the lockdowns. But again, if we look at those lockdowns, for some people, it was very life-changing in a good way. For other people, it was very fear-based. So for me, it was a mix of things, and everybody's taken it differently based on where they're at. If we look now, and we go to the 31st of July, we're in fascinating times. But you know what? I reckon every period of time has been fascinating times to whoever's lived through. We're just living it out. So if you see here that you've got, this is the 31st, which I'll do another video on in the next 24, 48 hours, because that Mars will move over Uranus. They're all conjunct together. And at that point, it'll be interesting to see where the moon will be as well at that point. So what else is going on with this new moon? Let's go back to today, which is the 28th of July, 2022. Right, so there you go, there it is. And what we have is, so Venus is sextile to Mars, Venus sextile to Mars, our needs and our direction. And then Venus square Jupiter can make us very emotionally demanding. It can make us that we're more interested in our own interests because it's a need and it's Jupiter. And it's also to do with travel, Jupiter. Mars conjunct Uranus, it gives us independence and individualism. And it's very impulsive. It's Mars, hey? So it's where we don't really want routine. So a lot of people, we will not want to be sort of put in a position where we're having to do what we're told. And we see that Saturn up there, it's retrograde. It's going to go back, I think, to 18, and then it will square again Uranus later this year, and then it will move off. But we've got a push-pull going on still. And there are many beliefs about what's taking place, whether it's the elites, people say, but, I've got my own thoughts on that, but I don't think I need to go too deeply into it. There's a lot of material out there that's explaining this. So Saturn is also square to Uranus, and this can be where we're very chaotic and we have no principles, but that could be government maybe having no principles, as well, rather than people. In Aquarius and Taurus, so is Uranus. So it can be unpredictable. So let's just say that it's unpredictable times. That's to the point. Doesn't matter who it is. We're in unpredictable times with that Saturn square Uranus. And then Neptune is a long-term transit to Pluto, and it does affect the peacemaking attitudes overall and peace building. So overall, if we look at that, Pluto moves slower than Neptune. So eventually that sextile will be exact to Neptune. There's a lot of hope in that, I think, that Pluto sextile, because if we go a year ahead and you see that that's 25 degrees and that's 27, Pluto 27 and that's 25. If we go a year ahead, you see, look, that's still in a place of being in that sextile. And it's long lasting, and it affects our peacemaking attitudes in connection with other aspects. It further enhances peace building and transformative actions on a global scale. So that transit is probably, might be going a bit too far here. In a way, it's a bit of a savior, but it doesn't mean it's all going to be a walk in the park. There's to work out what we've got to work out collectively is not easy. With the monetary stuff, I've learned a lot about understanding as much as I can. I've got a lot to learn around, how Bitcoin works and what inflation is and what money means and how we used to use money. Money has not always existed as we know it. And I've learned a lot about that. So, and paper money and gold, and people used to use salt at some point, would you believe? That would really be stressful, using a bag of salt as exchange of money. What happens if it gets wet or whatever? I guess they're special bags. So if we go then 2024, you've still got that still in aspect, but when we've got this Saturn then moving on to Neptune, that's a whole different story. But then what's interesting, that Saturn will be sextile to this Pluto, and you can see that's Aquarius 0 degrees. I'm going to leave it there today. I hope you've enjoyed that. And if you've anything you've seen, because I don't see everything, every astrologer is going to see something different. I'll catch you later. And if you want me to look at your chart with you, then you can see my link below the video and you can book an hour with me there on Zoom. Okay, catch you later.